we discussed various ways on how we could put something like this together. And it's my honor to spend the weekend with him and introduce him to these wonderful pastors. He's a thinker, he's a scholar, he's brilliant, and you're gonna love him. And he's specifically going to speak to us tonight on current events that are taking place right next door. And so would you welcome Rabbi Elie Mischel as he comes and speaks.
I'm feeling the spirit of Elijah and Pastor Ray. Unbelievable. I've never met somebody who brings together such fire, but also love all at once. And it's just, and I'm feeling it. I'm actually crying right now. And I know it sounds a little funny, but I haven't even started speaking yet. But when I come in here and I see these two flags, and I see all of you, I mean, such incredible people, filled with love and support, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm really overwhelmed, and I'm going to say it straight. If I start getting a little teary-eyed throughout this talk, I've never experienced anything like this before in my life. And I want to thank you all for being here and for being a part of this. It really is prophetic. Now, I was wondering after yesterday, how could this possibly get better? But then it got better because after meeting and really spending time over this last year with Pastor Ray and Michelle, now to meet other pastors one is more unbelievable than the next. I can't believe it. Finally got to meet Pastor Whelan in person, Pastor Cantley, Pastor Sullivan. Thank you all for jointly hosting this tonight. You are all amazing, and I'm looking forward to years together of study. You know, God brought us together through technology, and from across the world, we could be together. And we're going to make that happen. So really, thank you all. Thank you all. I'm here today on behalf of Israel 365, which really is an extraordinary organization that's bringing Jews and Christians together based on our shared belief in the Hebrew Bible, and in support of Israel, but not just Israel, in support of one another. Right? We're all in this together. Now, people always ask, what's with the name, Israel 365, right? What's that about? And it's a question that I'm always delighted to answer, because it's based on a verse, and that's our first slide here. Right? The verse comes from Deuteronomy, right? But the land to which you pass to possess is a land the Lord your God looks after. The eyes of the Lord your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. 365 days a year. Right? From the beginning of the year to the end, God's eyes are upon the Holy Land, because although God is present everywhere, and He's here with us now, right? The land of Israel is always at the forefront of God's plans for humanity. And the land of Israel is bound up together with the people of Israel. At the beginning of history, God chose one man, one woman, Abraham and Sarah, right? And their descendants, the people of Israel. God set them aside to play a unique role, different from all the other nations. Israel will never be just another small country. It is not Bulgaria or Belgium of the Middle East, right? It is different. We're always going to be different, right? And loved or hated. We got plenty of people, thank God, here who love us, and plenty of people who hate us. But one way or another, we are always at the center of the world's attention. It's amazing. A small little country like that, right? You can't, front page of the news every day. People have nothing else to talk about but Israel. It's incredible. It's all part of God's plan. Right? We will never be a normal nation, because it's through Israel that God will bring redemption to the entire world. But there is another nation that is destined to play a unique role in healing this world, and that is the United States of America. From the very beginning, of this great nation's history, it was clear that the United States was meant to be different. Right, from the very beginning. Right, this was not going to be an empire like Great Britain or France or Germany. They sought only power and wealth. But America's different. Right? And as America grew stronger, it became more and more clear that it became something very unique. And I'm going to teach you all a Hebrew word. Right? America is a nation of, and here we go with the ch again. Right? We'll practice it. We're going to work on that together. America is a nation of chesed, which means a nation of kindness and of absolute kindness. America saved Europe from starvation not once, but twice. An entire continent. Think about how the millions of people and their the billions of descendants who are alive because of this nation. And it was America that offered the Jewish people, right, among so many oppressed minorities, security and opportunity. You know, when my grandmother's family arrived on these shores, they were broken and traumatized. We talked about this yesterday. I mean, the brokenness, the psychological brokenness, the PTSD, the trauma, right? Almost everyone else in my family was murdered in the Holocaust. But America welcomed them. And it was here that my parents had the opportunity to rediscover their Jewish identity, to rediscover the Bible in this great country. Right? I am deeply blessed to be both an American and an Israeli. Right? To be a bridge between these two great and holy nations. And they are great and holy nations. With all of our problems, let's never forget that. Right? We are two chosen nations, America and Israel, two peoples that are meant to be a light for the hopeless in the world. But our two nations, as Pastor Ray said so eloquently, our two nations are also under attack. And we got to be clear about who's attacking us. Right? We are facing dangerous enemies internally and also externally. Now, here in America, and I don't have to spend a lot of time on this, you all know this very well. Right? Traditional Christians, but also traditional Jews, are under attack in ways that we have never experienced in our lifetime before. Never before. Right? The woke culture, it's seeped into every aspect, right, of our lives. You can't escape it. It's on TV, it's online, it's in government, it's in business. It's so insidious, right? And you know this very well. I've seen it, right, how Christians are labeled as bigoted and backwards. How many times we should do a competition, Pastor Ray. How many times have you been called a racist, and it's unbelievable, right? I grew up like my family's best friend. There's a black family, right? But somehow they throw these words around, right, just to smear. It's unbelievable, right? And we find that even members of our own faith, some of them embrace every change, every new idea, no matter how crazy it is, no matter how unbiblical it is. Right? But you don't need to tell me this. You all know this very well. Right? But what you may not realize is that the same attack, the same split is happening in the American Jewish community. Right? We also have this civil war that's happening here. Right? Just as Christians are split between those who accept God's word and humble themselves before the Bible, on the one hand, right? And on the other hand, those who make the Bible say whatever they want it to say. Right? We've got the same split among the Jewish people, right? Between Orthodox Jews who believe in the Bible and follow its commandments, right? And Reform and secular Jews who don't. And I'm not here to attack them, right? They're our family, but they're lost. I'll give you just one example. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Texas, and it's a great state. But I visited the Dallas Holocaust Museum. It's an $80 million beautiful museum. Wow, okay? It's incredible, very high tech, very impressive. They have a hologram of Holocaust survivors who passed away 10 years ago, but it's like they're there in the room with you. It's amazing. It's so high tech. It's incredible. But after you learn about the Holocaust and how 6 million Jews were murdered, you walk into a room that tells you, what is the lesson of the Holocaust, everybody? It's Pride Month. It's Black Lives Matter. I kid you not. And the gift shop, I don't know if we could put it up on the screen, but I have a picture. It's unbelievable. Right, check out that sweatshirt. You may not be able to see, but first of all, that a Holocaust museum has a gift shop is already very odd. And then you see what's going on that. I mean, that's incredible. They've taken the memory of 6 million members of our family, of our people, and desecrated it. Right? This is what's happening in our own community. But most upsetting of all, and this I think about every day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about this, is that we are losing our children to this insanity. We're losing them, right? And that's Jews and Christians, all of us. We're struggling. Here in America, right, we're terrified. Our children go online. You know what? Even in Efrat, where I live near Bethlehem, right, it's everywhere. My kid goes online and she's reading crazy stuff, right? It's seeping in. It's seeping into our families, right? We're losing them as they sit in our own homes, and then when they go to college, oh man. Right? And all too often we feel lost and we don't know what to do about it. How do you pull them back when the whole culture is sweeping them away from all that's true and all that's good in this world? All right, so these are the challenges in America today. Now, meanwhile, Israel is under attack in a much more old-fashioned way. Right? Every day, Iran gets closer and closer to having a nuclear bomb. Every day. They say that now they're weeks away. And meanwhile, Israel is surrounded by terrorists in the north and the south, inside of Judea and Samaria, from within. Tens of thousands of heavily armed evil terrorists, jihadists. Only a few months ago, my family only made Aliyah to Israel a couple of years ago. So this was our first experience. Now we were initiated, right? When the first rocket fell in our town, right? The siren goes off and you've got 45 seconds to get into that bomb shelter room. Every house has a bomb shelter room. Right? Can you imagine, right? I don't think every house here in Keystone Heights has a bomb shelter room. That's how every house in Israel is built, with a bomb shelter room, right? So we run. Everybody's running, right? I was in the middle of making a sandwich. I was like, I ran to the bomb shelter. And thank God everybody was okay, right? And it landed in a place where there were no people, right? Thank God, in a field right next to the town. But my daughter had a panic attack, right? Can you blame her? 11 years old, right? She's got anxiety to begin with, right? I have a psychologist here, right? She has anxiety to begin with, and it took like the next, right? The alarm is over in 10 minutes, but for the next 3 hours, she was having trouble breathing. Right? We don't think about these things. We see them in the news, right? Oh, Israel, more rockets come into Israel, right? We don't realize that an entire country with children and older people, can you imagine, right, older people in the middle of the night after night, at 3 a.m., a siren goes off, and an 85-year-old has to somehow run in 30 seconds to get into a bomb shelter room. Right? This is what Israel's living with. Can you imagine America living like this? Right? It's insane. But worst of all has been the constant terror attacks in Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel where I live. Right? That's the land of Hebron, of Bethlehem, of Shiloh. Right? You talk about, when you think about Israel in the Bible, you think about Judea and Samaria. That's the heartland. And it's the terror that is coming every single week. Right? It hit me now for the first time, our family for the first time, in a way that we never experienced before. On April 7th, the second day of Passover, just a few months ago, my neighbors, Lucy and Leo D., they're family from England, they have 5 kids. They were driving to a family celebration because the way it works is the first day of the holiday of Passover and the last day are sort of like the Sabbath. Everybody stays home, right? The Passover Seder that first day. But then the days in between are like everybody's on vacation. That is the high moment of the year. Everybody's off. The whole country's off. And people are going and family celebrations, right? It's like Thanksgiving. It's like Christmas all rolled up into one. So on the second day of Passover, they got into 2 cars, right? So Leo D. got in one car with 3 of his kids, and Lucy got in the other car with their 2 daughters, Maya, who is 20, and Rena, 16. Right? Our neighbors live around the corner from my house, to drive to this family celebration. And as they were driving, a car with jihadist Islamic terrorists drove up alongside of Lucy and Maya and Rena and shot them over 20 times, one car into the other. Their car, of course, veered off the road and crashed. The 2 girls, Maya and Rena, 20 and 16, they died immediately. And Lucy went into a coma, and she died a couple of days later. And I'll tell you, I've never in my life experienced anything like it. You see them, I mean, these beautiful girls, they were like the babysitters, like for us and for our friends. And I mean, what a life they had ahead of them. They were, the older one, Maya, who's there, she's actually on the right. Maya on the right, she's 20. She's just doing her second year of national service, meaning she was dedicating herself to disadvantaged kids. And Rena, 16-year-old high school girl, on Fridays, right, she would go and volunteer at farms, right, Israeli farms that are trying to settle the land that needed help, and they didn't have the money to pay for help. So she would spend her Friday is Sunday in Israel. She would spend her Fridays working the land as a volunteer, and then rush home to be home for the Sabbath with her family. Now, it's one thing when you read about a terror attack happening someplace far away or in some other community, but it's altogether different when terrorists murder your neighbors, when they're murdering children in your community. Our entire neighborhood, and this is something I never understood before, and I'll try to share it with you now, but our entire neighborhood was traumatized. I never understood. We always said, of course, the family is suffering. Whoever thought about the community, right? The friends, Maya and Rena's friends. Lucy was a teacher. What about her students, right? My close friend and neighbor, the rabbi of our synagogue in Efrat, his two young daughters went to Lucy's summer camp for years, year in, year out. They're traumatized. They're weeping all night. My daughter, the same one who's got anxiety and had the panic attack with the bomb shelter, right? She was so terrified. She thought that an Arab was going to climb through her window at night and slit her throat. Imagine an 11-year-old girl thinking that. She slept in our bed for a month. Right? She was afraid to sleep in her own bed. Right? This was like the month before her bat mitzvah, and this is what she's thinking about. This is what's on her mind. Right? This is what we're living through. Just 2 weeks ago, at a hummus restaurant, who doesn't love hummus, right? It's like the greatest food of the Middle East. This hummus restaurant was right near Shiloh, right, where the tabernacle was for hundreds of years when the people of Israel first came into the land. 2 Arab terrorists murdered 4 people. I don't think it was on Fox News. I don't think it was anywhere. Nobody here knew about it. And 3 of those 4 were 17-year-old boys, kids. Now, here's a crazy detail. 4 days before that attack, Pastor Paula White, who's President Trump's personal pastor, together with several other Christians, her family, right, her son and daughter-in-law and her grandchildren, they were at that restaurant. And one of the boys who was murdered was their waiter. They were there 4 days before. We don't realize sometimes how close these things are. The tragedy is very obvious, but there's another tragedy here as well. Because chances are that even incredibly good people like all of you didn't know about any of this. Right? You're good Christians. You support Israel. I mean, unbelievable. You're unbelievable, and you didn't even know about it. It's happening every single week. Yesterday, just last night, after I said goodnight to Pastor Ray and to Michelle after dinner, I went online and I checked the news, and right near where I live, a young father in his 30s, he was driving his 2 young daughters, 9 and 14. Right? They were shot up on the road. And he's going to survive. Right? He was badly wounded, and the girls were covered in glass, and they're traumatized. They're okay. But this is happening every single week in the land of Israel. This is crazy. Right? And people don't know about it. And if you do hear about it, chances are you're hearing about it from a corrupt and evil media. And I say that very seriously. I'm not exact. It is corrupt and it is evil. When our friends, right, when the D family, you just saw those 3 beautiful women. When the D family, when they were murdered in cold blood, you know what they reported on CNN? Right? I'm going to say her name. They're one of their top reporters, Christiane Amanpour. Anyone know her name? She's one of the top reporters. Probably, you don't watch CNN, of course, right? But she's one of their top reporters. Do you know what she said on CNN? She said that these 3 women, Lucy, Maya, and Rena, died in a shootout. As if this 16-year-old girl, Rena, who babysat my kids, as if she was walking around, right, with an Uzi or something, right, and like AK-47, and she's shooting at Arabs. They're driving on their way to a family celebration. They didn't have a gun in the car. Are you crazy? She makes up lies. It's unbelievable, right? And even after they Rabbi D, the widower who lost his wife and daughters, he threatened to sue CNN for billions. Even then, she half-hearted, not even a real apology. It's pure evil. Pure evil. Isaiah says that justice has been withdrawn and righteousness stands at a distance. For truth has stumbled in the street and integrity cannot enter. Right? In our generation, there is no such thing as truth and falsehood in the public square. Right? Facts don't matter. What really happened doesn't matter. It's just whatever my narrative happens to be. I'll say whatever I want to say. It doesn't have to have anything to do with truth. There will come a time, says Isaiah, when truth will stumble in the street. That's the time that we're living in right now. Right? The media, and here in America, portrays me as an evil settler. I'm an evil settler, everybody, because I am a Jew who dares to live in Judea, the home of the Jewish people. I'm an evil settler. That's me, right? I'm an obstacle to peace, everybody. You've just met an obstacle. Happy to sign an autograph. I'll just say, Elie Mischel, obstacle to peace. That's me. It's unbelievable. But no, the jihadist terrorists murdering my children's friends, right? They're not an obstacle to peace. We are. This is not an easy talk, and I'm sorry but this is what's happening. This is what's happening every day. Right? This is the evil that we're up against in Israel and in America. The question is, how do we fight back? Right? How can we stand up to this evil? Now, the short answer is that we have to stand together. We need each other. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we need each other and what we can do for each other. Israel is strong, right? It is not a weak country. But we are much stronger when America has our back. Much stronger. Everybody likes to give lip service. Oh, America and Israel were such good friends. But when America acts like Israel's best friend and supports Israel's right to defend itself, to defend ourselves against terrorism, then Israel is able, it's very practical, Israel is able to use greater force against evil and fewer Jews are murdered. It's a fact. But when America turns away from Israel, as Joe Biden has done, it's been all over the news this week, the Israeli government and the Israeli army is restricted, and they're not able to fight back in the way that they could. And what happens? More Jews die. Right? It's automatic. No other country in the world has this kind of power over Israel. Right? It's only America because of the unique place that America holds in the world. Jews are dying, right? Our friends are dying every week in Israel, in Judea and Samaria, because this administration is pressuring Israel not to fight back with all of its strength. Just a few days ago, this I'm sure you don't know, the Biden administration gave another $223 million to the Palestinian Authority. Now, what is that money going to be used for? Now, if they were building mansions, that would be fine with me. I don't need a mansion. They can have mansions. That's fine. But that's not where the money's going. That money it pays for textbooks that teach young children, right, to hate and to kill. Right? They're corrupting their children, and we're paying for it in this country. Right? President Trump ended all of those payments. Every one of those payments. Because he saw what was obvious, that American money was being used to murder Jews. Right? You know, and under President Trump, terror attacks in Israel declined every single year. It's a fact. Right? The number of Jews, of our friends who died, it went down every single year of his administration. And you know what's happened since President Biden became president? It's gone up every single year. It's like a V. Right? There are more Jews have been killed now in 2023 than all of the last 2 years combined. Children, men, women, children, old, young, they come into synagogues. A few months ago, they came into a synagogue, shot up a synagogue. Right? 7 people. Right? This is not a shootout, everybody. These are, right? And when they say, oh, Israel has killed Palestinians, what does that mean? That means they went into, right, a terrorist stronghold and shot the people, killed the people who killed children. That's what's happening. But they make it equivalent on CNN, right? As if, oh, it's all the same. Or no, the Jews are worse. It's unbelievable. So it's clear Israel needs America. But I'm going to tell you that as much as Israel needs America, America needs Israel. Just a few months ago, at the NRB convention, Dennis Prager said the following. I'm going to quote to you word for word. He says that if America abandons Israel and the Jews, that is the end of America as we know it. But why? Right? Why is America's fate tied up with the Jewish people and with Israel? What's that about? Right? So there's an amazing quote. You may have seen this at some point from Mark Twain, right? The great American writer. And this one I know the pastor already knows. He almost pretty much quoted it yesterday. Right? Mark Twain wrote an amazing, amazing essay. You can read it concerning the Jews. That the Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out. And they sit in twilight now, or have vanished. The Jews saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? What is the secret of the Jewish people's immortality? Because it's true, the Jewish people are eternal. Right? As miraculous as the state of Israel is, it might be even more miraculous that we're still here at all. Right. How is that possible? Right? Now, we will always be here. Right? God has decreed it. The question is, what about the other nations of the world? Right? And that depends upon their choices, whether they choose good or evil. I'm going to read to you a couple of verses we should never forget. We know the first one. Everybody knows this one by heart. But we shouldn't forget the second half. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you, I will curse. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you. That's in Genesis. But in Numbers again, those who bless you shall be blessed, and those who curse you shall be cursed. And Isaiah again, for that nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yes, those nations shall be utterly wasted. God has made it abundantly clear, right? There's no doubt that those who join Israel on the side of righteousness and goodness will be blessed, and those who do not will not. Right? Now, the United States, more than any nation in world history, not just today, but in world history, has been good to the Jewish people. Right? And so the United States, more than any nation in history, has been blessed with unbelievable wealth and security. We are living in the wealthiest, most powerful nation in the history of the earth. It's unbelievable. And why is that? I believe it's because God promised. Right? This nation has been so good to the people of Israel, and so it deserves every bit of that blessing. But as America has turned its back on Israel, I think we're witnessing here not just an attack on Israel, but a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism. It's happening here in Florida, in New York. Every day in the streets of New York, Orthodox Jews, the ones that you can tell are Jews, are getting beaten up. It's crazy, in broad daylight. And as that is happening, as America has turned away from Israel, we see that America is suffering. Economically, spiritually, morally. Right? It's not automatic forever. It's not eternal. It depends on what we choose. Now, if this nation hopes to turn things around, if America hopes to once again be blessed more than any other nation on earth, right, this nation must turn back with all of its heart to the people of Israel. But America needs Israel for another reason. You know, we live in a world that's turning away from faith. I mentioned before about the young people who say, you know, why should I believe in the Bible? Right? Who says it's true? How do I know? Prove it to me. Right? Not so easy to answer that question. But here's the thing. In Israel, you don't need to have faith in the Bible anymore because faith has become fact. The Bible has come to life in the land of Israel. The prophecies of the Bible one after another, are coming true. It's astounding. Before our eyes, we merit to live in this generation. It is incredible. We're seeing it happen. The people of Israel are returning to the land, just as God said they would thousands of years ago. It's happening today. The land itself has been transformed from devastation to blessing. It's one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see in the world. You have to come and see it. Come and see it for yourselves if you've never been. And if you've seen it, come again. Right? Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu. He's one of Israel's greatest rabbis. He's the chief rabbi of Safed, one of the great cities of Israel. He's written a book. It's unbelievable. And he proves how over 80% of the prophecies in the Bible have already come true. We're not going to stop till it's 100%. We're not there yet. But over 80% have already come true. Nobody spoke Hebrew for thousands of years. It was not a spoken language. But the prophet Zephaniah, how do you say that in English? One of the prophets, Zephaniah. Would anyone know? No? It's one of the Old Testament prophets, one of the minor prophets. He said that they will come, that he will come back to life. So many prophecies, even ones we're not thinking of. They're coming back to life. They're happening. They're being fulfilled as we speak. By turning to Israel, by bringing your families to Israel, and most importantly, sending your children and grandchildren to Israel, you can tap into that awesome wellspring of faith. I personally have met unbelievable young Christians who have come to Israel and whose strength, their faith, their Christianity, it's unbelievable. They've been strengthened. Their lives have been turned around just by coming to Israel. We have a program in the Jewish community called Birthright, where wealthy people have put up millions of dollars that every Jew in America, right, who wants to go to the land should be able to go, and pays for them to go. The Christian community needs Birthright as well. Right? The land of Israel is there for all of you as well, to be inspired, to be connected. We need each other. We need the land of Israel. In a world that's turning away from faith, Israel is a beacon of faith. Unlike the rest of the world, Israel's becoming day by day more religious and more connected and more faithful. The younger generation in Israel is more connected to God than their parents and grandparents. It's astounding. Got to come and tap into that energy, to that faith. We got to join together. We got to stand together. Amen. Let us fight for the soul of America together. Let's join forces with my new friend, Rabbi Dr. Elliot, right, and with the Orthodox Jews here in Jacksonville, in the broader area, to stand up for biblical values. Right? You'll be amazed by how much we have in common. It's incredible. Right? We were raised thinking and taught about how different we are, but we're so much more alike than you might realize. You got to get to know each other. We were talking about it today, the power of friendship. Right? Get to know a traditional Bible-believing Jew. They're not all like the Jews you see on TV. Right? There are a lot of amazing Bible-believing Jews, and meet them and find them. They're here. They're not that far. Right? Get to know them. Develop friendships. And let's defend Israel together. Right? It's no longer enough to say that, I love Israel or I support Israel. And it's no longer even enough to pray for Israel, though we have to pray, and we're doing that tonight. Right? That's not enough anymore. We need to act for Israel. Right? The Republican leaders, right? We've got to tell them that America must support the Jews of Judea and Samaria. It's the epicenter of the conflict. There's some great people out there that get this, but we've got to remind them and keep it at the top of their list. Right? They're being pulled in every direction. Even Governor DeSantis, one of the great men of this country. Right? Amazing people. Ted Cruz. There's so many great people in this country. I thank God for them every day. But even they need to know, they need to hear from us that we care. Right? That they're not alone in the wilderness, that there's a public behind them, and that's pushing them and strengthening them. Right? We got to tell them, well, why isn't it on the Republican Party platform that for Israeli sovereignty, Jewish sovereignty over Judea? Right? Shouldn't the Jews be sovereign in their land? Right? Let's make that happen. Right? Let's make it happen. We can do it. And if you're able, and this is something that it's on my heart, as you can tell, if you're able to support terror victims in Israel, and it's financial, you can do it that way. write a letter. Can you imagine what that might mean? Show them that you care, right? Or to the kids of Efrat, right, who lost their friend, write them a letter. Show them that you care about them. I think their minds, they would never, they don't know that you're here and that you're, they have no idea. They don't feel your love, right? Show them that you love them, right, in every way. We can help with that. That's what we do. I'm blessed that this is my job. This is what I get to do in my life, is that I get to help connect and be that bridge. Right? We can bring your love to the Jews who are suffering in Judea and Samaria. And if we do this together, I know that we will succeed. Right? We are a firebrand saved from the fire. That's what we say about the Jewish people who survived the Holocaust, who are still here. But I think that we are all firebrands who are saved from the fire. In every generation, as Pastor Ray was saying, there's a remnant, right? This is us. Right? We are going to make it happen. I want to finish with one short thought, and I'm sorry if I went over my time. During the darkest days of the Holocaust, in the Warsaw Ghetto, there was a man, his name was Hillel Zeitlin. He was a holy and faithful Jew, but he was struggling with his faith. Every day, it seemed like another member of his family, another friend, was like dead on the street. I mean, it's hard for us to imagine, but every day, like you didn't know who was going to die the next day. Right? And writing in his diary, which we have, he wondered, how could a good God allow such evil to exist? He struggled. He was struggling with his faith. Right? It seemed like all hope was lost. But then it struck him, and this is unbelievable. Even in the midst of the Holocaust, he's in the Warsaw Ghetto, surrounded, barbed wire, he couldn't get out, right? Nazis all over the place with their Polish guards working with them. It hit him that even in the midst of the Holocaust, and I'm quoting his words, the sun was rising over the hills of Judea. Even there, in that hell, he remembered that the sun was rising over the hills of Judea. That as Hitler was destroying European Jewry, the nation was being reborn in its ancestral homeland. Right? We say in Hebrew, Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker. Right? That the God of Israel does not lie. The people of Israel live. You know, much of my family died in the Holocaust. In Poland, together with Hillel Zeitlin, he did not make it out. And millions of others, cousins, great uncles and aunts. And yet today, my family, my children, my parents, my siblings, their families, their kids, are born anew in the Holy Land. Right? I live with my family with all the troubles. I live with my family in the hills of Judea. I live outside of Bethlehem, where King David, as a young man, shepherded his sheep. Right? Can you just imagine that? I often stop on those hills, right, and I'm feeling the breeze. You get a good breeze over there. I feel the breeze, and I think, King David, he probably stood here. He stood here with his sheep. It's unbelievable. The miracles that we're living. With all of our challenges here and in Israel, we must never, ever give up hope. Ever. Right? The sun is rising over the hills of Judea. It's happening. So let us stay strong. Let's stay positive, and let's do our part to heal this world and to bring the final redemption. Thank you, everyone.